Welcome once again to Syntax Error, your pretentious philosophical pedantic podcast ostensibly about video gaming and related topics therein. Warning, this podcast contains mature language, content, and spoilers. You have been warned.
All right, we're back discussing the length and value judgment of games and perhaps art in general. I am Scott Thurlow, of course, as always, and with me is Ian Manzer.
Hello.
Chris Morgan.
Hey.
And Stephen Omosi.
That's me.
All right, so welcome to part two. We discussed a number of things broadly, but the main thing is, as we all agreed, it's sort of a grayish fine line area. So given everything we said before, the next question, sort of a sub-related question to the original topic, would be what role does value come into play when you're judging a piece of art which you have actually paid real money for? Go ahead, Ian.
I think it really depends on what you want your audience to be. If you're trying to be to reach the broadest audience possible, then you have to cater to the needs of that broad audience. If you there's that series. There's that series that deals with train simulations. And the Euro Trucker simulations.
Right, okay, sure.
They can, in a sense, charge what they will for that because they have an audience that will pay
the
for
rabid
that.
Truckers, I guess, will pay for those games.
Yes.
Sure.
But again, that goes. They have to be very detailed in what they do to then to have those.
It's a very niche kind of game.
Yeah,
genre, if you will.
So if you're going for the niche markets, I've said my piece on this. I'll pass it along to Chris.
No, go ahead, Theo.
All right. Well, basically, in terms of value, I think it's like I've said last session. I think that the value of whatever you get is what the consumer is willing to pay for it, especially in terms of. And this is something I don't think that's come up yet in terms of mass-marketed media, mass-produced media. There's a difference between a work of art, a painting that somebody did, and the original of that painting.
A Picasso and a print of it.
Right. Well, yeah, and the prints that they make of it. Obviously, the original is worth a lot more. However, that there's no such thing.
Can't draw that comparison.
There's no such thing. Video games were made to be a mass-marketed type of media. So, in terms of the value, and again, I said this previously, but I think that there needs to be a changing of the guard, I guess, in the way that games are priced.
I disagree partly that. That video games are meant to be mass marketed. There definitely is that sector there, but as I just want to point out, there's the indie game scene, there's the strange niche market scene, and that granted hasn't always existed, but it's coming to prominence now. And just like movies, yes, there's plenty of studio releases, but there are indie releases. And if you want to go down to like the French films that were 24 hours of a clock. Those always exist in those mediums, and so it's not always the mass market.
I guess I should have been a little bit more clear. You're never going to get the original video game unless you make it. And even if you do, it's not worth any more than the video game that somebody else gets. It's whatever you make is produced for more than one person. Whereas a work of art, if you make that, it's for either for you or the person that buys it, and then you can sell prints, of course, but they're not the same thing as having the original.
But in my in the first session, I countered that kind of point that I don't think art's a very good example of comparison. That you only do books and film, and to go back to that kind of original I think that you have original ideas. And think of God of War versus all the God of War clones that came after. And what has more value?
Saints Row.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Again, so similar again to the second earlier session. I agree with you guys both to an extent. I guess what I keep harping on, what I keep coming back to, is that the fact that you can't. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio in that sense because of the nature of games, because of the nature of the medium, right? I'm not. Unless you're an auteur, unless you're like, I don't know, David Cage or something who fancies himself an auteur, we can get into that. But like, going into it, you're going to be making something that is going to be. The intent of it is to be consumed and produced for as many people as possible to make as much money as possible, because you're a business. Like, developers are a business. But of course, like, those who are writing the games, whoever's writing the script, they're also artists. So like the weird like sort of juxtaposition of that, I think, is more prevalent in games as a medium as a whole. So the question, in fact, that I pose to you all, like, becomes more difficult to answer because of that. Like, it's hard to say, where do you draw the line, right? I'm an artist. I have a vision for a game. Here's my vision, and it's going to be it's going to be 2 hours long. But maybe that's like, it's a short story equivalent of writing games, right?
There's a game on the PC that I read about. It's free, and you can only play it once. When you die,
what is it?
I can look it up if you want.
No, it's okay. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, supposedly like it reads the cookies or.
I've heard of this too. I've heard of this too. Yeah.
It reads something within your computer that blocks you from ever playing it again.
Okay, fine. It's designed to do that once. Okay.
So in a sense, right there you have an example of an artist with a vision who put out something unusual and strange for the medium.
Within the medium. Mm-hmm.
But there's a price to pay for that. That, it's good for someone to put on his resume and good to have discussions about, but he's not going to be, if he could not charge money for that. I mean, like, theoretically, perhaps a little bit, and people who are curious would, but in the end, like, the point though is that these do exist in the video game world.
Sure.
I mean, I think in any artistic, and let's be honest. I think that all of us look at video games as art, right?
Of course,
we can all agree on that. All right.
Not always. Some are.
All right. Well, that's a whole other discussion for a whole other day.
But broadly, you agree, yes, Ian.
Anyway, I think in any artistic medium, any creative medium, let's say that.
Is that good enough for you?
Yeah, creative medium. Let's go with creative medium.
In any creative medium, there are always going to be those games on the edge that are pushing the boundaries, and those things on the edge, right? And those are really important, not because they're going to be huge or
the biggest sellers ever.
Not everyone's going to love them, but the thing is that the people that are making whatever medium it is look at those games as a way to change your ideas about what that medium is, and that's a big thing for that. Scott, go ahead, man.
No, I mean, keep going, please. I'm going to add on to your point. Like, agreed. Like, again, perhaps considering myself an artist, like, that's something you have to consider. Like, I want to mess with Ian and I, of course, like, you can jump in on this, feel free, but sure, like, you want to push the boundaries of what you can do within the medium. Like, we go back to, as a literary example, House of Leaves, right? Of course, I think we all, like, those of us who have read it, like, it changed what you thought could be done with that medium. And I appreciate those people who are doing that same, or at least attempting to do that same thing with games.
The thing is, as I fancy myself a game developer, when I'm creating a concept for a game, like, for instance, I'm a big fan of linguistics, and I like the idea of developing languages for games, but I always have to consider whether I'm going to be alienating an audience by making a choice or not.
Sure, of course. Like, you have to consider whether or not, like, that's your interest, and will people get it? Like, will they appreciate what you're doing, or maybe you're doing it purposely to piss them off, or like in a sense like that. But whatever your intent may be, as long as the broad intent is to push the boundary, like see what can be done within the limitations of your preferred medium, or the medium at least that you're working in, specifically for games.
And that's the whole thing. Like, you know, as long as you're doing something new, if you have an audience, any kind of audience, somebody's going to see that, and they're going to add it on to what they're doing, or try to integrate it in some way,
Or rip you off. Maybe.
I'm trying to be nice about it, but
No, I was gonna say that, like, in a lot of ways, to me, video games, you know, or I guess for all of us, are interactive movies or TV shows. Like we said, the Batman games was like an interactive, where you're in a graphic novel. But my thing was getting back to, like, being able to push boundaries. I can't think of anything except, like, Boyhood. Okay, I have not seen Boyhood, but I've only heard one review with it where they don't talk about, you know, a landmark in filmmaking. It took 12 years.
I'm making a jerking off motion.
Yeah,
at Chris,
I
by the
see
way.
that.
Just for the sake of our audiences,
But,
continue.
like, a friend of ours at work and a couple other people I've heard said, yeah, it seemed like he had, like, you know, for the first half of the movie had a story, and then the second he was kind of making up as he went along. And okay, all right, let's take Birdman. Has everybody seen Birdman?
I have not, but I know quite a bit about it.
Okay.
yeah,
It was shot in a style. And they did some things in terms of filmmaking pushing the boundaries. However, through narrative, through, you know, dialogue, you know, there was a compelling story there. The characters had depth. They were interesting. And my point
Agreed.
comes down to it. You can push the boundaries, yeah. And I wish I had an example. Okay, let's say, like, Sky, you know, like when they were doing all the green screen stuff, and they were like, you know, Sin City and Sky Captain and so forth, you know, and those god awful prequels of the Star Wars, and it's just like, all right, we're producing green screen films, and it's just like, yeah, but the thing is, when you have something like Sin City, the green screen, yeah, may visually wearing on you, but at least you had compelling stories, whereas, like, you know, Sky Captain was just like, there was like no story, you could tell that, so, like, you know, at what point is, like, pushing the boundaries more important than the story you're trying to tell?
I forgot all about Sky Captain until
All
you
right.
brought it up.
Wasn't that an awful movie?
and the world of tomorrow.
Holy shit.
Yes, we can all agree. However, what does that have to do with the games?
No, but my whole point was when
Right,
you're pushing the boundaries of games.
I'm somewhat joshing you, but yes, I get
Yeah.
it.
But the thing is, like, you know, Sky Captain had its place in terms of this is something that you can do with the genre. Maybe you should do it a lot better than this, but
Yeah.
it gave the world of green screening or whatever, like a way to go. Anyway, Ian's been waiting for
The
a while.
game that you can play once is called One Chance, by the way. I just looked it up.
Meta as fuck, I like it, yes. Go on. What else?
But I know I made a comparison earlier to how games should be compared to film, and here I'm going to totally become a hypocrite.
As all we are.
Explain how, yes, as all we are, how they are completely different, because the era they exist in, like, studios who make films can make flops and survive, whereas
That's a good point.
game studios really cannot risk. Maybe a lot of the major ones, perhaps EA could survive.
Like the big
flops.
5 or 7 could maybe survive a bad
Yeah.
game. You're right, yeah.
But
So they have to play it safe in a lot of ways in order to recoup profit of some
To
sort.
maximize profits.
And thus, it also deters innovation, because if the innovation fails,
yeah.
and they completely fail.
But that's a lot like Hollywood, and like the comparison when I was making the movies was basically in terms of, like, stretching artistic integrity versus telling a story. Now there's, like, staying on. I had two thoughts going on at the same time.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, but I guess it comes back to, like, what you're looking for. Okay, studios make flops, which is why you see so many films, like, having the same cookie color mold, because Hollywood knows, you know, what works.
This is what works, sure.
What formula, you know. Then you have certain things, like you have a bunch of comedies out, and then, like, 21 Jump Street, the remake, it knows exactly what it is. Okay, it knows that it's a mass-produced thing. Now, when you're buying video games, okay, when you know when you're getting into it, are you playing like an RPG versus are you playing something like the equivalent of what Pac-Man would be, where there's like minimal to no story and you're just playing the whole time? I guess Minecraft is kind of like the same way. But
somewhat. I get what you mean, though, for sure.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when you're pushing artistic integrity, whether, you're showing off some new visuals, like, say, The Order, coming back to that, if there is a compelling story, to me, if there is decent gameplay, then it's okay to say, like, hey, we're pushing the boundaries of game playing. This is what we're doing because we have all these other elements in it. If you're going to put a game that just looks pretty, it has like no story, shitty game playing,
but it's one dimensional.
Yeah, you shouldn't get the credit for like, hey, it's trying to push artistic boundaries. Yeah, but there's nothing else worthwhile to this game.
Scott, I actually have a question for you about this topic.
Sure.
You're the most prolific gamer amongst us.
I certainly waste the most time with games amongst
Chris
us.
might be close.
Chris, then this will apply.
No, I don't. Chris is listen. He's a married man. He's got to do other shit. I don't have to do shit.
I'll
I've
lay
got
this for the
dogs
table.
and-
Then.
yeah.
Go on, though, my friend.
Okay. Of the major production studios for video games, the one, like, for instance, you have Ubisoft that continually pumps out Assassin's Creed for better or worse. Of
Chris is
these,
trying not to
of
choke
these
on his drink.
of these franchises, how often does a unique game that's experimental come out of them?
Very rarely, and I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you both everything you both just said. I would like to address broadly, if I may, right now. You're right. Like the divide is this: if you're a big AAA, if you're Rockstar, if you're fucking Bethesda, if you're fucking Valve or whoever, like the big five, EA, even though I hate them, they're the devil. You want to maximize profits and minimize risk. What's the best way to do that? Make something that is the most like the Branson Pickle thing. Make something that's the most broadest appeal ever. That way, the most like you'll have the best shot of the most people buying it. Yes, of course. Listen, Yahtzee. Shout out to Yahtzee. But no, like seriously, like, but that's how the business is run. Like that's what you. That's what. It's been an ongoing conversation, and we're going to certainly discuss that separately as its own topic later on. But of course, it matters to this discussion because it's like endemic of the entire business, the entire industry, right?
Although, to your point about Rockstar, I think that they will experiment with games. You had LA Noire, which was very risky.
Yeah.
Kind of, not really.
Yeah, but it in a way, LA Noire, which again it was a game I didn't finish because it was so involved. It kind of combined a bunch of different elements and combined storytelling with what the Telltale games are, because the crime scenes were very much like the Telltale games.
Kind of.
Yeah,
I see what you mean.
But the thing is, LA Noire combined a whole shitload of unique things. So it took a little of this, a little of that, and blend it into a whole game.
Did you guys all finish LA Noire?
Yes, I did.
I couldn't get into it. I played it for
Interesting.
I played it for a while. I played it for probably 3 or 4 hours, and I gave up on it.
My theory on that is the main character was bland and
Completely
made
vanilla.
decisions that were totally out of whatever little character he had.
Yeah.
He was the least interesting character in that game by far, of course. But the thing is, like, again, this can become its own topic, but broadly, that's also endemic of, like, games in general. Like, because they want it to be a cipher for you. Like, so even if you have, like, all right, I'll keep it on topic. In The Order, your character is very well characterized. Your name is Sir Galahad. You play as Sir Galahad, and he has a history with every other character, and, like, he just very well. He's way more than a one-dimensional character, and I appreciate that about this game. Like, regardless, like, the length thing, whatever. Like, the value judgment. To answer like my own question, the question we posed at the start of this session, I'm getting value out of it because it's clear that they had a vision in mind for this character and developed it very well.
I was going to say, the only part that I've really seen of that game is the prologue, and the prologue immediately delves you directly into who this character is. And it's as far as I can tell, it's a fairly far future section of the game. Like, the entire game is a
It's in medias res.
right. Well, not even. Maybe I don't know.
Somewhat.
I don't know where the
Broadly.
game. I don't know where the game goes from there, but it seems like it's. You start the game very much like the chapter 1 is very much before the prologue, and that gives you a real sense of who your character is right away.
It's something you've seen in a lot of games, right? Your situation is this, and now here's like kind of like a broad flashback of how you got here, and maybe you'll go on. The plot might meet up at that point.
Really,
Right,
really,
I
really
said-
Fight Clubby if you want to like start
Right.
there.
As I said, you've seen it in 1,000 games, but it's pulled off well enough that that's fine. Like, they wanted that setup and they used it well.
But I don't know if you. Again, I didn't play the game, so I can't comment on anything about it. But are you rewarding the game, or for its virtues, or are you rewarding the game against the failures of its counterparts? Because writing tends to be poor in video games, unfortunately. Except in the very few that I love, the Fallout games tend to be very well written.
Obviously, Bioshock.
Yeah, Bioshock is very well written. Though I heard Bioshock 2 wasn't very.
Bioshock
No.
Different
wasn't
developer.
Just kind of pretend it didn't exist.
great. I mean, it was all right. Yeah.
But no.
Okay. Yes. Agreed. Like, you're asking me. So what I'm gonna say to that is, I think they did a good job of it. Like, I respect. It could have been written a lot worse. It could have been like, you know what I mean? Like,
That was in the
Right.
sense is the question.
relative, but like, I like what they have done. It got me. Like, I'm invested in it. Is, again, as I said earlier, is it the best shit I've ever seen and played? No, but by no means is it bad either. It's very, very solid. I like some of the lines. Like, again, the voice acting. Like, such a good job on the voice acting that like you get pulled. It's more immersive for that, even if it's not like, you know, it's not even an FPS immersive game like in that sense. But the story, the world, and the setting, etc., as I said, are very well. They had a vision in mind.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna with this, because one thing we're talking about with like, you know, how interesting a character is, you know, you take like the silent protagonist. The story around like Bioshock, where you have a silent protagonist, was like such that it kind of made more sense for him to be a silent protagonist,
Of course.
whereas opposed to like a game I enjoyed, but again, to quote Yahtzee again, record in oh crap, what was that game that came out? Bethesda released. It was a
Dishonored.
Dishonored. We talk about Dishonored. It's like, hey Corvo, say nothing. You know, do you want to go on death?
Time for another suicide mission. Don't say anything if that's okay with you.
Say nothing if you're cool with that.
you're right. I guess I won't.
You know,
Well, I like the lampshading.
yeah, but oh crap, I just lost my train of thought. But my train of thought.
Your train just got derailed,
My
son.
train just got derailed. I actually did have a point going into this. Okay. So back onto like the silent protagonist, or even now that you know we have.
You are anything but a silent protagonist in this
Okay.
game, by the way.
But like you know how like whether it's Fallout,
Talk too much.
the quality of the side missions and all this stuff. It's the little things that matter, like the side characters, the things that send you off on missions, are kind of like you're interested in them, so you don't mind doing all these little bitchy missions. Which, as we said in Dying Light, some of the people
I'll
might
forgive
be
it
interested-
if I'm invested in it, of
Yeah.
course.
But like
Not
with-
even forgive, like it's
do you-
fine.
But in like The Order, do you run into random people that are like, "Hey, do this mission for me. We do this mission for me," or is it kind of like Bioshock, where it's just like you're going down a line, you're not going to have any.
It's very linear in
Yeah.
that sense.
All right, then that's another thing we have.
It's
to
more
dis-
linear. Like it's a linear game broadly.
But that
Well, that's
but-
the only
but-
way it could be.
Yeah, but that goes
That's
to what
true.
I was going. The next point I was going to bring up, very long-windedly. I apologize.
It's not an open world.
But yeah, but when you have a linear game, you can't compare like Bioshock to Fallout.
Of
You
course.
can compare
That's-
Bioshock
we said that earlier,
to The
yeah.
Order. You can compare Bioshock to more or less. But for something like this, when you're talking game length, what I'm saying is, if you're talking a linear game versus an open world, you really can't draw, because we, myself included, we all drew comparisons between like Fallout and Dragon Age and so forth. But if this is a certain type of game, you know, like where it's a linear game, we should judge it based on that.
Right. By default, like you can't. they're not apples to oranges. Or I mean, it is apples to oranges.
Yeah, it
right?
is.
Like it's a very big divide, as we briefly said earlier, amongst those kinds of games. Like if you go into it expecting one thing, and it's
Yeah.
totally the opposite, like it can't be judged by the same values.
But the point I made earlier was that even though you cannot judge a game like an RPG, an open world RPG, to a linear shooter, each of them have elements that extend gameplay.
Sure.
Bioshock, it was a hefty game. I know we talked about length earlier, but it felt like I was playing a full game when I played it.
Agreed.
Again, I haven't played this one, but you have. Again, I'm not a fan of multiplayer, but a lot of these kind of games have a multiplayer element to them to extent that justify, in a sense, that extra cost.
Kind of yes and no. Like I fully understand what you're saying, but again, like I think that the circumstances surrounding this specific game are like you have to take them all into account, right? Again, never did they say, "Hey, we're gonna have multiplayer." They never said that. They never said it was gonna be co-op. Even they never they didn't like. You can't fault them for failing to deliver on promises that they didn't that were never actually promised.
But as a AAA game, there are like unspoken
certain.
So in a sense, they're failing on the contract
guess.
between producer and consumer.
You're saying they failed to capitalize. They failed to realize that perhaps like mindset exists.
You bought a package of peanuts. There was only like a quarter of peanuts in there.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know, when you buy a package of chips, like, you could see the air in there.
to me, like it's not. It's never up to the length or size of anything that's a creative endeavor to justify,
Like this guy said,
itself.
You want a 50-inch dick or not?
And this always goes back. Like this reminds me of like being in fucking English class in like fucking 6th grade. And it's like, listen, the length of this paper is 5 pages. If you can do it in 3 pages and convince me that you've done as good of a job as you had to do in 5 pages, then that's cool.
Then that's good enough.
Then I'll give you a good grade on it.
If you have something to say directly to him, okay.
go.
All right. Because I'm going to play devil advocate with myself because...
With yourself, huh?
Yeah, right. Because like you're comparing a linear game, and we always bring up Bioshock because Bioshock's awesome.
It's the best linear game ever made.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think if the Order released around the same time, like 2008, 2009, around the same time first Bioshock was, it'd be much more well received. Because like if you look at the first Bioshock, or even a lesser game like Dead Space, as they progress, they're still linear games, but they're bigger games. Like look at Infinite, look at the DLC, Burial at Sea.
Sure.
It's in a lot of ways it's a bigger game than Bioshock. They're all still linear. So like because those games have raised the bar, the Order is going to be more harshly judged based on time than it would have been maybe 8 years ago.
All right, you bring up English class with this. I have an interesting point to make. We have novels, we have novellas, we have short stories. Should there be a different subsects of video games based upon their length?
Well, I mean that's a whole question of whether or not whether it's,
short films versus
you start looking at like AAA games, right? I have never seen a short AAA game, like a super short AAA game, like an hour AAA game. I don't know if you guys can debate that.
I don't think I've ever seen an hour game aside from
of course,
PC,
you've seen a
like
game,
Flash
you've seen an indie game that takes you an hour to play or whatever. Like that's the whole thing. There are different subsects of games. There's the AAA releases that are released on consoles and computers. There's Steam games that are of all stripes that you can only get on a lot of them you can only get on computers. And then there's like all the indie games that are on Xbox Live Arcade.
That's based on production value. Every single other art form I can think of, aside from like paintings and sculpture, I mean like kind of a consumable art, is divided into length. You have in music, you have singles, you have full albums, you have short films, you have
EPs,
feature length films.
or whatever.
You have, and so on and so forth, has made other points.
But the thing is, like, for those, music is divided into songs, in which production value is what it is. It's what you can afford. Novels or novellas or novelettes, there's no such thing as production value, really. It's whatever you spend your time on doing. Short films are only production value. So, like, they're all... I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, a short film, with very few exceptions, is going to be a lot less expensive than a feature-length film.
But
okay, I was gonna say, drawing in your analogy between songs and short stories, it's kind of like Telltale games. Okay, they're giving you like 1/5 or 1/6 of a game at a time. You're spending $5 more for, or $30 for the whole thing. Unless you're selling to a magazine or whatever, you're not going to get, a writer isn't going to get paid for that short story really, and so they can collect it into like a book of short stories. Yeah, an anthology. Each song on a record, you compile a certain amount of songs on a record, you release it as a record. Now, some artists, you can tell, like, the songs they wrote for hits versus what they wrote for fillers. But, with video games, you're dealing with more of a complete product. Unless, like I said, to the point, like Telltale games, you're not dealing in chapters, you're not dealing in individual songs, you're dealing as a whole product. So you really have to kind of decide it as, like, is it a novella? Is it an hour and a half movie? Is it a 3-hour movie?
Let me just jump in real quick. For Telltale games, you're not necessarily dealing with the whole product. You can buy the first one, not like it, and then never buy any other.
Yeah, but that's my whole point. When you're buying a Telltale game, you can buy it like $5 at a time.
It's cut up.
Versus if you're buying, a $40 or $60 game, that's one complete piece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, no, like, yes, agreed. And what we were saying earlier, very nice, fellas. some tomfoolery is happening here in the studio. But to address the thing you said earlier, like, should there be, like, a division? Like, should you outright know? Should you be told as a consumer, okay, you're getting a novella in terms of games. Okay, you're getting a fucking Song of Ice and Fire book. And, like, you buy fucking Dragon Age, that's what you're going to get. Right? So, like...
But you know that.
You should know that. But you're saying, like, maybe it should be, like, it's on the developers now to make it more clear to you what kind of game you're going to get.
Well, I mean, you should tell you, like, what kind of game you're going to get. Is it going to be a linear game versus
like, should there be more subgenres now?
But then again, unlike a movie or a CD or something, you don't have a definitive runtime. Beth and I both play, you and I played games differently. Like my wife Beth or our friend Steph does, because they have a tendency to not fart around so much. Whereas like even a game like Mass Effect, where Beth has played multiple times, she was getting impatient with me because I'd fart around in every room so much. But by the same token, she'd be like, I never saw this before. I'm like, because you don't waste enough time. So like a game that may be 30 hours for her might be like 45 hours for Scott and I.
Of course.
I'm going to triple hypocrite myself here by returning to the
an unprecedented triple hypocrite.
And let me apologize to Beth. This is nothing against you. It's just an example.
Don't worry about it. Triple Axel, triple hypocrite. He has pulled it off. Go on, my friend. Do it.
When you go to back in the day when you went to a movie store, you go on Netflix today. They're divided by genre. You go into a GameStop, all the games are on the shelf.
They're alphabetically organized. Sure.
Granted, again, there's a lot less content than the amount of movies they can produce per year. But I think that there has to be a better way of organizing video games so that people know what they're getting. And you know what? The people who enjoy those shorter games, that such as Metal Gear Solid 4 or The Order, who want a shorter experience that's higher storytelling quality and higher graphics, should know what they're getting into.
Agreed. Like that's sort of what I'm saying. Like we basically just did the same thing. It's just that it's not a standard industry practice to do that. But should it be? I mean, maybe I wouldn't be opposed to that. But the thing is, like, again, like perhaps like because it's one of all of our collective one top hobbies, we're sort of more informed about it as consumers and as fans of the artwork, etc., of the medium. we're going to be, by default, all of us specifically, are going to be slightly more informed than maybe your average consumer. And okay, and so in that sense, given that, then yes, perhaps maybe the developers should start saying like, okay, this is a X hour game or whatever, or like if there's, even if it's not a standard, like, 12 hours must be your standard, or like, it's going to be above or below. Like this, and think about this, right? Almost like as if it were the rating. Like instead of a mature plus rating, it's like an 8+ hour game or whatever.
Do they throw a time on the back of games?
I will have to look at it for you. Some of them, as I recall, in my personal experience looking at many box game, like the box of mini games, some of them did. I don't think it's as prevalent anymore. A few did.
I think this is an older
it's sort of an older artifact of it. Like I think less and less.
PS1, PS2 era, like Xbox.
It happened.
The newer ones I saw had controller, like the amount of players, multiplayer,
sure,
network.
They got like the tech, things of that, like co-op enabled or not, like etc. Sure, but like a handful of them used to be like featuring, like it was a selling point, featuring so many hours of gameplay, whatever it was, but that wasn't the standard at all. And I think it's dropped off. But you're saying perhaps maybe some of us are saying they should have that as a vague gauge for you as a consumer to know.
I was gonna say, I think that really, who buys a $60 game without knowing what they're getting into at least a little bit? Like, do any of you guys?
Stupid humans, of course.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where it comes down to it. It's like you know what you're getting into. How well it's executed doesn't come out until you actually play the bloody game. As I was saying
an
before,
excellent point.
Where
But that's
you have
any
Alien versus Evil
Of course,
Within.
it's applied to everything. Yes.
And I think that's why people stick with franchises so much.
Yeah,
because they're not willing to risk.
You know what you're getting.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Right, of course. Like, but that also is its own double-edged sword, because now you're pumping out, like, again, Assassin's Creed, I guess, is a really good example. COD2, like, they're just pumping out over, like, Ubisoft. Someone at Ubisoft, this is like recently, they had this quote. They said, "Listen, we'd stop making Assassin's Creed games if people would stop buying them, but that isn't the case. In fact, they're gonna they happen to keep buying them, so we're gonna keep making them. Like, okay, like it's a business decision, of course. Like, if you have a product that people want, that is like guaranteed money, it's your fucking cash cow."
But this is from the consumer angle, not the. I understand why people.
Sure.
Why do people continue to buy Call of Duty? Why do people continue to buy the new Madden every year?
Agreed.
That's a very good.
But yes,
the
of
thing
course.
is, with Madden, that's a different beast because you're talking about different mechanics, different options. What have they built on from last year? When you're talking about these games, even if they're part of a franchise.
Let me ask you a question. What is the story narrative Madden? Like that's the big divide, of course.
But it doesn't matter. Like that's not what you're going for in a Madden game. Like that's I could jump in on the fucking sports games here if you want. Like,
do it. By all means.
I haven't played sports games in a while, but I used to play them all the time in college. And really, all you want from those games is to be able to jump into the shoes of whoever you love watching in sports. And go play that game and get a ton of hours of just having fun doing it. Like,
but isn't that the concept of every game? Whether Assassin's Creed, you want to jump into Altair, whoever the new people are, and murder people.
Assassin of the time, yeah.
But this kind of goes back to what we were saying about knowing what you're getting into a game. When you buy a Madden game, you know what you're getting into. When you buy something like Assassin's Creed, you know what you're getting into.
At least you should.
You know conceptually if you're buying into a franchise what you're buying into. When you're buying an independent game where you have no basis of comparison at all, that becomes a different beast.
To answer that, I had something else to say, but forget it. To answer that, like that's where video game reviewers are a huge boon. Like, if you're gonna buy an indie game, there's a reason you're gonna buy it. Either it something about it strikes you as really cool, or somebody has told you it's a great game.
You gotta play this.
There's
awesome.
no other reason that anybody buys indie games, really. Like, if you're going through like an indie game market and something about it looks awesome, then maybe you'll buy it. Otherwise, you have to count on game reviewers who play every single goddamn game in the list, and then if something is really good, they'll tell you. And that's how indie game
spread. Sure.
how people that make them market those games.
I should have a quick comment. I read or heard a statistic recently in Steam that the majority of games purchased
aren't played. I saw that exact same thing.
Oh, no, I completely agree with that. Anybody that I've ever talked to that has Steam, including me, is like, oh, every time there's a sale, I buy like 10 games, I play like 3 of them, and then, other ones sit there on my computer for the rest of the,
They're games I paid full price for that I haven't played yet.
Sure, and again, it all becomes it's all a weird nebulous glob of there's responsibility on both ends. I think responsibility on consumers' part, responsibility on the developers' part, and again, I don't mean to keep saying this, but I think the best way to do it is to indeed have a happy medium of a meeting of those two things. Somewhere I go forwards, you go backwards, and somewhere we will meet. Just tell me, as a developer, be as upfront as you can possibly be about it, as to what I should expect, and as a consumer, be informed, or at least know where to look to figure out whether or not this game is going to be a huge RPG open world 1,000-hour game or a quick indie 2-hour experience.
I was actually growing on something that Steve said. You have something all right, so you have The Order, okay? For whatever reason, it's actually been fairly well hyped, okay? One of the biggest franchises that have come up were Borderlands, okay? Borderlands was definitely a word of mouth game. I got it
somewhat,
3 or 4.
Yes.
Yeah, I got it 3 or 4 months after it came out. The guy at GameStop told Beth and I about it.
A guy at GameStop told me. Do you guys remember that? Okay,
Yes.
Sorry. It's so good.
But it was the same day I bought Red Dead, and he said, and then, Borderlands is awesome. You have to get Borderlands. Well, we got Borderlands, and Amanda and Steph were like, oh, we just played Borderlands. It's the best thing. And you and Ian were playing. Was it you and Ian were playing it?
We started
and all of a sudden, it just realized it was this word of mouth game that now, for Borderlands 2, is actually advertised on TV. Now, The Order is something that's brand new, smaller game producer.
It's not a small game. It's a triple
small game producer.
Okay.
Okay.
A small game.
It's a production company.
You're right.
So what I'm saying
You're right.
is they obviously put a certain amount of their budget into the game itself, and put a certain amount of budget into the advertising of the game, because there's been a big buzz on this for last year.
At least.
Yeah, at least.
2 questions. 3 questions actually. Do you know who produced this?
Yeah.
What other games they've done? And
We said that. Somewhat.
Did you
Hold
say
on,
that?
we'll go over it.
I will answer your questions.
Sorry.
Question the
What's the
third.
third
My memory's terrible. And the third one is you mentioned earlier that it took 5 years to make or so.
It was. Let me give you the facts. It was in development since 2010, but announced as it was supposed to be a PS4 launch title. Announced at E3 in 2013. It was supposed to be one of the first games you could buy when the PS4 came out.
Do you think it's 5 years worth of production?
Maybe I'm not a professional enough in the industry to answer that question. As you ask me as an analyst hobbyist of games, maybe think about this, right? The last Fallout game was New Vegas. It'll be assuming they announce it this year or later this year, it'll be 4 or 5 years since that game too. You know what I mean?
Yes, but that's on a completely different scale.
Kind of, but I don't know. I couldn't really find why it was delayed so long. Maybe there were. Yeah. All right. Let me finish my thought on this, and I'll address your other questions. Right. They didn't really There's no information that I could find, at least, that said outright why or why not it didn't come out on time. It just didn't. So therefore, it sort of was a roller coaster of hype, and then people forgot about it kind of because it was announced so long ago. But now that it's come out, maybe in that sense, maybe that's why the backlash is bigger. It's a mountain of a molehill thing to me. Relax, dudes. Whatever. Right. So, but regardless, so maybe yes. So given that, maybe this supposed to be PS4 launch game. It's so fucking short. Okay, maybe, but maybe they did delay it because they were refining the engine or whatever. They were refining they were just working on the actual aesthetic development, because as I said, it does indeed look incredible. But I'm not saying that makes or breaks a game. It's nice, yes, but it's also nice that it has a really good story.
Yeah.
Too. So let me answer. Developer was they're called Ready at Dawn.
Okay.
They're a smaller time one, like kind of like I haven't really heard of them. They did Daxter. It was like one of the first games.
Yes, I hadn't heard of it.
Right, and they ported a lot of the God of War games. So God of War, Chains of Olympus, God of War, Ghosts of Sparta.
Oh, those are all the.
Those are PSP games.
Yeah, and exactly. So like that's what they're known for. So like think about this, right? Like, but Sony is backing them. Sony's basically producing them. Like, they publish them, not producing. Sorry, right? So they're backed by the fucking company that owns the console itself. Like they have all the money in the world to back it up.
I did a little research on them earlier, and actually, it's a lot of people that were originally from Naughty Dog. So
yeah, they're like Naughty Dog.
They have a pedigree.
They
have a pedigree,
kind of like sort of. But before the Uncharted
I'm
deal.
surprised they have a good story.
Oh, fuck you, man!
Fuck
wow,
off.
wow!
Fuck
Take
off.
that, Naughty Dog!
Uncharted was great. Uncharted 2 was great.
In your face, Naughty Dog!
But I guess what we've all been talking about is like is part of like we go back to the informed consumer. I mean, I think we're all informed consumers.
Yeah, we are.
We are, but I think but we have to find out like the complaints we're getting, are they from informed consumers or not?
That's my question. I don't know. I don't specifically know anyone who would buy a $60 game who is not at least somewhat informed about that game.
Yeah, but it depends on the hype. Because if like people are lemmings, I'm just gonna say it. Most people are lemmings,
agree.
and
We all agree.
yeah, and like if something's super hyped, they're gonna get it. It's like how you draw. It's like, okay, when they released Star Trek 2009, okay, Star Trek is not as big of a franchise as like say Star Wars is to the mass populace. But you throw J.J. Abrams in there, who's had a certain amount of success, and it adds the but it adds the gravitas. I personally am a Trekkie. Again, that's another thing. But my whole point is, like, if something's hyped enough, you're going to get audience outside your niche audience, is my point.
Right. Oh, definitely. And that same thing happened with Star Wars. But anyway,
Yeah.
Ian, what are you going to say?
I remember as a kid when I bought games, when I was really at the height of my gaming, instead of doing schoolwork that I should have done, I
Final
bought
Fantasy
some
VII.
Join the club.
terrible games, but I wasn't an informed consumer because and I think
Also,
a lot
the
of
internet
industry,
didn't exist.
Yeah, the internet didn't exist, but a lot of the industry is driven by
Parents buying their kids games?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you're right, actually. I think that's where all of the uninformed gaming purchases come from, or most of them, anyway. Sorry, go ahead.
You go.
No, you've just added another dynamic. Versus, like, we're all adults. We've been buying our own shit for, like, a very long time. You're talking to a teenager who's getting this hype from Game Informer or something, maybe not knowing what they're going into. Maybe they've gotten their first console, they're hitting puberty or high school. So all of a sudden, you're talking, there's like a 20, 30-year time gap between that consumer and our consumer. And that consumer's relying on his parents. And why the fuck are you laughing? Because they use puberty instead of teenager.
No, because you blame puberty on buying video games.
No, I'm talking about age. I'm talking about in terms of age.
Even though Australia doesn't go that far, Jesus
They're going through
Christ!
puberty, and then they just buy a fucking terrible game. That's what happens.
And that's the way that life works.
I'm just talking about.
course.
I'm 45. You guys are in your early 30s. A 14-year-old is going to be relying on whatever his or her allowances versus what he or she's getting for Christmas, whereas we have more of an autonomy than they do. Also, by the fact that we have cars and and so forth.
Sure, agreed. Like, yes, that's sort of like maybe like a substat of like, I want this game. Okay, whatever, Billy. Like, I guess I get it for your birthday.
But go on. I was just gonna say is like the question you posed. And,
But they shouldn't be like the thing is like you guys know me, and maybe our audience will now get familiar with this. They shouldn't be playing. It's a fucking R-rated. Like, don't buy your kids fucking mature-rated games.
My parents took me to see Alien
But
Res
they
9.
don't give a shit. Like, of course, like I know it's like
But-
it's a similar thing, but like that's why like the whole like the cliche, but like it's somewhat. Of course, it's based in truth. Like all the 12-year-olds who are like getting 10-year-olds or whatever getting mad on COD. COD is an M-rated game, but parents like. Mommy, I want COD for my birthday or Christmas. Okay,
But that's the
fine.
informed consumer. You've got a 14-year-old
Okay,
who's an
of
informed
course,
consumer,
exactly.
and
But
the parent who's not.
I blame the parents. This is a whole separate
Exactly.
topic. etc.
No, but-
It's a whole different thing.
well,
Yeah,
finding
we're
it-
getting way off topic here.
But
course, yes.
no. Actually, we are on topic because when you
It's
first
somewhat
po-
of an
when you first
valid aspect.
When you first pose a question, we had like 3 or 4 general answers. Now, like, into our second podcast, 40 minutes into our second podcast,
Our
we've
fifth,
all of a
sixth
sudden,
beer.
we've all of a sudden
Speak for yourself.
divided each one of these points into separate things. It started off as big. We're realizing now that your initial question has many more variables than like we even thought. Like at the beginning we had 3 or 4. Now we've got what, 15 or 16.
No, that's why I
different
said it's a
variables?
very gray, nebulous area, and that's like, I mean, like, so, like, ostensibly we can discuss this forever, but
Yeah.
Or we're overthinking it all. But I would.
no, we're just smarter than all the average people, of course.
I would be pissed off if, when I was a kid, I bought a game, and I didn't get games very often when I was a kid. Loaded it up and only got 8 hours out of it. Like, I would have been furious because I just spent. That's just where I'm coming from.
That's how long games were. Honestly,
What are you talking about?
yeah, no. When you were a kid, you couldn't turn a game off because it wouldn't save.
I had Super Nintendo.
Yes, correct.
I was going to say.
What Super Nintendo games could you save on? They were.
Oh
No, you're right. Super Nintendo was where they
Chrono Trigger.
came. I'm sorry. I grew up with Nintendo. Actually, Atari first.
And how many hours did you get out of Mario?
I got a shitload of hours out of Mario, but you couldn't, like, that was the thing. You just played it until you could beat it. The time that I beat it, I got 2 hours out of it.
The first game I can remember you can saving at a place that was not a computer text-based game was the first Metroid. It was on is either on Coleco or the first Nintendo.
The first Metroid has to be the original Nintendo.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was like in '89, and I remembered it was
Yeah.
it was actually a big game. There was like minimal story to it, but you could actually save per level.
No, you
And
couldn't.
yeah, you could.
I believe you could,
I don't
You-
but I
think
don't
so.
remember.
You had like 15
I
or
should
16
remember that, but
levels.
I don't.
It had 15 or 16 levels, and as long as you got through the level, when you start up again, it would start at the beginning of that level.
Listeners, chime in. Tell us if you could save on Metroid. I don't think you could.
This is like we're talking 25 years ago, 26 years ago.
I honestly don't remember outright.
There are also a lot of password
Zelda, I think,
systems
was the
back
first
in
one you
the
could
day.
save on. Sorry, go on.
No.
Ian, what'd you say?
There are a lot of password systems back in the day.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true too.
Allow me to address some of that, all this broadly. The thing is, it's a change. Like, more than any other medium, it matters, like, the changing of technology, right? The march of science, if you will. Science marches on. Like, you could write a book centuries ago and it'd be the same exact process, more or less, of writing it now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could write down words on some kind of, like, parchment or whatever. Like, games, like, because almost literally the cutting edge of technology, that kind of stuff, like, it advances so much faster than anything else. Even movies, like, the old silent black and white films, etc.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, right? But games, like, have fallen into the just because of, like, where they ended up, like, having been invented, if you will, in society. Then, like, they advance so much faster, right? So it's all that. So, like, it's much different in that sense that, like, your expectations, like, if you're a 10-year-old kid right now, you expect things like checkpoints and being able to save whenever, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, old school Nintendo games, like, how many of them have you guys fucking finished ever? Like, like,
Not many.
there are some games that I still have never beaten to this day, but, like, I would still play them endlessly as a kid because, to Ian's point, yeah, I only have, like, a couple of games per year. So I'd play that game forever. And even if I beat it, I'd be like, all right, I'll try to play it again. But yeah, it's going to take me, like, another month because there's no fucking save
But
files.
that's what
Or
you-
very few had save files.
But that's what you're used to. Like back in
Now I am. I think.
Yeah, but back,
I think
but,
we all like. We live. Well, I'm sorry. Real quickly, we kind of live, like, on the cusp of both. We were there to experience both.
But I was gonna say, like, you had the console games that basically had no stories and all action, or you had the text-based games that relied on their stories. Now all of a sudden, for the last at least 15 years, that has fused. So all of a sudden, like, for me, going back and playing something like Space Invaders or Asteroids would make me want to blow my brains out.
Yeah, of course.
But-
you can't go back.
But for me, playing a tech,
go home and
I
do it.
could
Exactly.
probably more easily go back and
Goddamn
play a
Sinistar.
text-based game than I could go back and play something on a console.
Absolutely.
All right, I guess my final thoughts will be video games are developing as a medium, and they're going through the growing pains of any of the great, like, film went through a lot of growing pains in its early years. And I have a personal belief that one of the facets of that is it's going to need to move beyond just the idea of video games as a whole, but break into subsects. Understand not just indie, but really kind of, instead of being alphabetical listed as mentioned before, go by genres. Discuss the legacy.
Survival horror, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And really start to build itself up as a respected art that it is, and has the real potential to be in the future. Chris?
I'm going to go on. I'm going to say the exact same thing. They should basically, to the consumer's point, you should know what you're buying. To the retailer's point, to the producer's point, you should be able to tell them what they're getting. And it's a give and take process. I mean, for us, I think everybody
There
here
must be a compromise between them.
I think for us, stories most important. So depending upon the game length, as long as the story is compelling and all the other things are compelling, game length doesn't matter. You know, for somebody who really just wants to...
It matters somewhat.
Yeah, it does matter somewhat. What I'm saying is everybody's priority, depending on what game you're looking to get, is going to change.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we started off talking about value in video games, and I think really where the value finally lies is what the consumer is willing to pay for. If you're willing to pay for something, then buy it. If you're not willing to pay for it, then don't buy it. If enough people don't buy it, it's going to change the way that is marketed. Like, that's what it comes down to, I think I've said pretty much everything else I need to say. I'm going to leave this to Scotty to wrap it up.
It's funny. You're right. I mean, it's a tautology. Like, if nobody buys it, it will fail and go away. Like, I mean, like, that's always been the case. It's always will be. It's just that in this one, viewed through this narrow-ish range of this medium, it's evolving much faster than, like, mediums that have come before. And yes, like, you need both ends of the agreement, if you will, the agreement between artists and audience to reach some kind of middle ground in which, yes, as well, they both know what they're getting, but like you have to do the research on your end, and as a company, you have to be as open and honest as possible as you can to your consumers that say, all right, here is the price, whatever it may be. Maybe in 20 years, games will cost you $100 for inflation, whatever it may be, right? Here's what you're going to pay for this piece of work, which, yes, is art, but also, again, both parties know it's being agreed upon implicitly, produced for entertainment, like mass consumption entertainment. So given that, as a consumer, I'm going to invest this in it, but at least I know what I'm getting. And as a developer, I'm going to tell you, here's our outlay, here's a summary of our story, of our game, and here's what it's going to be like. Here's what you can expect out of it. And that way, this entire, the thing that kicked off this topic, this entire session, will be almost moot. You won't have to have a backlash against your game if you tell people what to expect. Which, again, I sort of said, I think that Ready at Dawn did do, they never promised it, but it has to be, again, more fleshed out, more streamlined. The process has to be more streamlined on both ends. Both have to be willing to commit some kind of work, some kind of information, of what to expect, what value they're putting in, and what value you may get out of it. So I think we've sort of broadly agreed, but it's all very interesting. I would say I think we all agree that it's an evolving medium and business model, and very interesting to discuss.
And there's way too many variables to really.
We could talk about this for hours, but I think it's about time to wrap it up. In fact, you're right, my friend. We have talked about it, so I think it's time to stop. But I hope you all enjoyed listening. From me, from myself, Ian, Chris, and Steve. Right. We're signing off. Go ahead, my friends. Good on ya.
Have a good one.
All right. Take care.
This has been Syntax Error. Thank you as always for listening, and we will see you next time. Music by Stephen Hermosi. Editing and engineering by Chris Morgan. Syntax Error is part of a Lost Signals Productions. All rights reserved.